phones that could get access to Siri. It was only about a month before people figured out what the API was and where you could, what website you had to hit. And so, the same thing is going to happen here. Barbie's been out for 4 months. I think it's only the fact that, Barbie dolls are a little bit less of a draw than new iPhones. I haven't seen people lined up out the door and down the block on Mattel stores. There aren't that many Hello Barbies out there, but it's got to be soon that somebody's going to figure out what the API is. And then, of course, once they do that, there'll be all kinds of attacks that they can get into on those dolls and so forth. The accounts and the password. Well, I mentioned that. All the parents, have accounts. They possibly don't even know they have accounts. They very likely have not properly secured those accounts. So all kinds of hacking potential there. Other toys. Of course, if Hello Barbie sells it all, there's going to be all kinds of other action figures building on this same technology. Do you remember the Furby? Yeah, a lot of people were really upset about Furby. There were, high security research institutions that actually forbade people from bringing Furbies into the facility because of the fear that the Furbies were in fact recording conversations. And as far as I can figure out, it never actually recorded the conversation. It would listen and it would generate sounds that sounded like the conversations that it heard. It's interesting enough. Anyways, teddy bears. Anybody seen the movie AI?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1 or 2 people. All the students are too young. So this little kid who's a robot, talks about artificial intelligence and whether or not a robot can actually love you and things like that. But there's a sort of previous generation teddy bear in the thing, and I'm sure that they're going to be building lots of those. Educational toys, toys that are supposed to teach your kids. What are they supposed to teach your kids? Are they teaching anything else that they're not supposed to be teaching your kids? Choice of endings books, which are really interesting now. We've got the printed versions so that they're static paper, and you read to a certain point, and then you decide what the character is supposed to do next, and you flip to another page. But those can become much more complex if we write electronic versions in Kindles and what have you. Network games and toys. My wife and I don't watch a lot of TV. Usually I bring home movies from the library. We watch stuff, including television series, on DVDs. So we miss a lot of the ads. We miss out on all the cultural excitement that the rest of you get. Not to mention the indoctrination. But recently been watching curling and thought we'll watch hockey as long as the Canucks haven't been ruled out of the playoffs. And seeing a lot of television ads for free games that you can download for free. Now, why are they paying big bucks to advertise these games on TV? Well, of course, because they are primarily network versions, and if you really want to play the games, you have to play, through their server, and you have to get an account, and then you have to pay for access and stuff like that. And Mo mentioned Ashley Madison. I have another presentation on Ashley Madison, which he has also seen. And one of the interesting things about Ashley Madison was you could sign up for free. But basically, that's about all you could do for free. And if you wanted to actually do anything on the Ashley Madison site, you had to pay and pay and pay and pay. Very interesting. So, are there other things that actually, companies will be giving away for free? Even, pieces of hardware that are connected and interconnected, and then you pay some way. Or, could they be supporting it through advertising revenue? Either from, putting ads out to you or from collecting information about them. And as I say, network everybody's got a smartphone. All the smartphones know where we are all the time. GPS, triangulation with the network connections. So the phone knows where you are. It knows what advertising you're passing. It can know all kinds of things. The military and various intelligence communities do have some apps that basically work like sonar. From a cell phone, they can get at least a rough idea of how big a room you're in, what shape of the room, how many people, whether people are moving around, that sort of thing. So, again, our devices are getting smarter in ways that we don't think about. Tools. Now, I know this sounds funny, tools. Connecting a tool to the internet. Why would you connect a skill saw to the internet? Well, the ultimate thing I would think that you wouldn't connect to the internet is a sniper rifle. And yet somebody has built one that you can connect to the internet. Now they, build it so you connect to the internet so that you can upgrade the scope. And the scope is very smart and, all kinds of advantages and that sort of thing. And they even tell you, do not connect to the internet while you're trying to shoot somebody. Well, no, not in those words. I mean, that lawyer wrote it, but that's what it means, So if I told you what they actually said, you wouldn't understand it. But, so that's why they put the warning out. Nobody understands what the warning means. But anyways, you can, and people have, in fact, demonstrated, they can break into this rifle, and they can actually change the programming on it, or even just change the data on a scope so that you shoot somebody else other than who you're aiming at. They can retarget the rifle. I would think, again, that's, pretty much the stupidest idea, and yet somebody has done it. There is a device that somebody has built, deliberately connecting it to the internet. You can connect it to Wi-Fi, you can connect to that device over the internet in such a dangerous situation. Of course, we're doing it with cars. The Americans are mandating it. All those cars that have the self-driving capabilities, the one that I like, I can't even remember what car it is, but they, take it out on a test track, straight, crash test with the wall at the end, and then, fire it up to 60 miles an hour, and the car stops itself just before it hits the wall. Good safety provision. But the Americans have mandated in legislation in the United States, there is a law, new, that says that if you have one of these a car that has self-driving capabilities, and I don't think they've defined that, but that could be as simple as hands-free parking, right? Anyways, any car that has these self-driving capabilities has to be able to connect to and communicate with any other nearby similarly equipped car. So the cars are going to be talking to each other. Now there's a great opportunity here. Anybody work for TELUS? Bell? Any other communications company? No, good, okay. Particularly you guys at BCIT, here's a project for you. Taking the networking ideas from the internet protocols and the networking technologies we have for different types of connections between devices, particularly high-speed connections as they get closer together. Let's build some devices that will talk to each other and will pass messages between and through each other. Now think about this. Everybody's got a cell phone, right? You've got a cell phone and you're in a busy, bustling location with a lot of other people who are all talking on their cell phones. Right now, you all have to connect to that cell phone tower. It's a contention model. Sometimes you do not get a connection. There aren't enough channels. Now, if your phone is talking to the next person's phone, well, in the first model, more people, the more devices in a given area, the worse the service is, right? In the communication model, the mesh model, the more devices there are in a given area, the better the connectivity is. So think about that. Put the programming into the cars, put the programming into our cell phones, into our Internet of Things. All of a sudden, all of these things are communicating with each other. Who needs TELUS anymore? Who needs Bell? Who needs the phone companies? You know? Sell your phone company stock. Because I've said that in a room full of BCIT students. I'm quite sure it's going to happen pretty soon. Anyway, all of these, well, the cars, of course, the cars are going to talk to each other. All kinds of information. Where is the car? How fast is it going? How close is it to somebody else? You know, is it parked in the wrong place? All this information can be communicated. All this information can be picked up. Now, in the case of cars, Mo didn't go into the details of risk management. And I would say in the case of cars, I am willing to accept all of those risks. I mean, we need to look at those risks. We need to look at the loss of privacy. We need to look at all the potential dangers of the cars communicating with each other and people picking up all that information. And all the big data and analysis that can go on there. Because when we get really good self-driving cars, we will not be killing each other as often. And I think that is a risk worth taking. You know, it's cost benefit back and forth. You know, I'm okay with the self-driving cars. You know, I'm going to save 50,000 lives a year. You know, I'm willing to risk a little bit of loss of privacy. Again, you know, we need to look at those questions. We need to examine what are the possibilities, what are the risks. Can people turn your car off remotely? Which they can. Can people maneuver your car remotely? Which they can. And by the way, you think that this, you know, computers in cars, computerized cars is a new thing, especially with BCIT students, right? A friend of mine has a car. It's got 7 computers in it. They're all networked. He, of course, being, you know, professional paranoid like myself, has hacked the system. So his display in his car shows a lot of stuff, a lot of information that nobody else's car shows. Any guesses as to how old that car is?
Brand new.
10 years?
10 years? Any advance on 10 years? Any advance on 2000? That's 16 years? It's a 1972 LeSabre. Stock. Except for the hacking he's done on the computers. So, questions, discussion, what have you. Okay, oh yeah, oh good. At least one person was listening.
That LeSabre you just mentioned, 1972, like what kind of computers can it possibly have in it?
They'd be, yeah, pretty old ones.
Yeah.
They don't run Windows. Either 8 or 10. He worked for General Motors at the time. He's always been a really interesting technical person. He currently works for a very, very, very large American defense contractor. Because he runs their networks, he owns 7 Class A IP ranges and 32 Class Bs, and an unspecified number of Cs. He's really good. He's really good at machine programming. I remember talking to him at one point about printable programs. those of you who program in Visual Basic will have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm not talking about source code, I'm talking about the machine code, the object code of a program which it comprises only printable characters. And I was pointing out one particular program which I have lost and would like to find again, and he said, you can't do that, you can't write a program that only has printable characters. And I said, yes, you can. And as is usual with a lot of my friends, he got disgusted with the conversation and went away. And in 2 weeks, taught himself enough about the command set on the x86 family that he could do it himself, and came back with a little printable program, Christmas card thing. Interesting little program, but he's that smart, and so it's not surprising that he could take this 1972 car that basically just told you how fast you were going, and turned it into something where he can manipulate the parameters of everything in the car. Other comments? Question? Okay, nobody was awake while I was doing it. I'm used to that.
You have the Internet of Things.
Sorry?
The Internet of Things.
Yes.
What's the biggest security concern? Is it DH or is it activity?
Well, I mean, they're both essentially the same thing. The connectivity gives you the ability to collect tons and tons and tons of data. And we are computerizing devices we never computerized before. And because of that, I mean, I've got a digital camera, but I don't have a digital camera that talks to Wi-Fi. So all the data that it collects is basically lost. All I get out of it are the picture files. But when you've got one that talks to the internet, somebody can break into your camera and somebody can use your camera as a webcam. They can check to see whether or not you're home. They can't do that with my little Sony. Yep.
Rob, this Barbie and smart TVs and say the Xbox One that also has a microphone in it, I just got one of those.
Oh, and not only that, but of course it is basically looking at the room with infrared and finding out where you are and how you are posing and standing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it's when it's on, like when your kids are in the room playing with that Barbie and mom and dad are in the room as well, and it's listening to the kid, it's also listening to what everybody else in the room is saying, right? And it's recording that and taking that in. So let's say you've got your kid in the room playing with this Barbie, and you've got mom and dad in the room talking about their banking stuff, and one's saying, oh, what's our password for the Royal Bank again, honey? I can't remember, and our account number, so I can go check something. You say it out loud, the doll's in the room with your kid, and it records all that. Now all of a sudden, your banking information is vulnerable.
Yep.
That's pretty scary stuff.
By the way, how do you said when it's on.
Yeah.
How do you know when the Xbox is on?
It's always on.
I switch it off.
You switch it off?
I turn off the power.
Is
it
that
still
a
on?
hardware switch?
Are you still in the room?
I'm over here.
Is it a hardware switch? Do you know?
No, it's probably just a software switch in
Yeah,
front.
software switch, and you've got an indicator light, right? To tell
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a software switch as well.
So it's not really off?
You don't know.
I do know the transformer's still on, so it's probably still on.
Yeah. Basically, you basically have to unplug it and make sure that the transformer doesn't have, a very large capacitor in it.
It's got to be on at some level, because otherwise how would it accept your wireless command to turn it back on?
Yep. Exactly.
So I would turn that off, but of course it's still probably on.
Any
Yikes.
device,
Yikes.
how many of
That's
you
scary
have
stuff.
devices that in your home that you turn on by talking to them? If you turn it on by talking to
Scary.
them, it's on. It's already on. Think about
That's
it.
frightening.
Yes, good. If I've scared one person, it's been worth it.
Any more questions? Oh, one in the back.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, connected to the internet, I mean, I think you have to have the mindset as well that that data, right, is going somewhere, right? I mean, you have to let it go. Like, it's not something that, you know, you're going to keep, you know, stored in a safety box. If I'm browsing the web, I mean, my data is being observed. If I'm texting, you know, the ISP is looking at it. Apple has a copy of it. So, I mean, I have to understand that my data is not 100% secure. It could be breached. And that's happened, right? I mean, there's been a lot of sites that have been hacked. You get emails from Adobe saying, you know, your ID's been compromised, change your password. Again, right, I mean, how much of my personal information do I want to, you know, put out there? You know, if my score on, you know, Infinity Blade or Splatoon is being broadcast, I have to accept that, right? So, and especially, you know, with IoT coming out as well in a lot of devices, that's something I have to accept. I mean, encryption or no encryption, it's the risk I'm taking, right?
It's the risk you're taking, yes, and you are accepting the risk. Now that's, I mean, that's part of risk management is, you know, there is risk avoidance, I'm not going to be involved. There's risk acceptance, okay, I'm going to accept this risk. There is, you know, mitigation, transference. Yes, I am not saying that this is universally bad. You know, I just said, you know, about the cars. You know, I think it's worth it.